and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this Thursday night football NFL DFS Showdown slate on Draftkings and Fanduel. Excited to get into it. Before we do, a quick reminder, if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. Goes a long way in helping me out. Takes 2 seconds. It's free, and I'll be here all NFL DFS season long, breaking down these slates to help you guys become better NFL DFS players, help you guys win some money night in and night out, get you in the green. Of course, that is the goal here on this breakdown. And don't forget to check out my NFL DFS premium package. Just link below in the description. I am making some major upgrades to that this week. I'm going to continue to say I'm really excited about the tools that I'm producing. I'm really excited to use them myself, and I think you guys should join while you can. Link below in the description at the friendly price tag. I think you're going to get a return on your investment very, very quickly using these tools to produce your NFL DFS lineups. And with all that being said, let's go to start breaking down the slate for Thursday night football. And this game's not exactly expected to be the most high scoring game. A 41 over under, not exactly going to be the most up tempo, fast sling it out game that we'll see all season long on paper. Of course, things can happen, but at the top, as far as guys that I'm going to have interest in, it all starts with Daniel Jones, the QB for the New York Giants. Of course, I mean, these QBs are going to be highly owned on these showdown slates, but Daniel Jones kind of offers it all. He offers throwing, he offers the upside on the ground, can really get out there and run. And I really think both of these QBs are going to kind of provide that a little bit in this game, with Taylor Heinicke taking over at the helm for the Washington football team. Haven't seen him play a whole lot, but I think he's got a little bit of legs on him. 3 rushing attempts last time out for 17 yards. Went 11 for 15 on his passing attempts, and some people are saying this is even an upgrade from Fitzpatrick, so excited to see what he can do. And it's not as if the Giants secondary really scares us all that much. So, of course, it starts with those two guys. But when you're factoring the game script, it's a 41 over under, 3.5 point spread in favor of the Washington football team. I really think that this game could be just a slug it out. And when we're breaking down who the ball is going to, it seems pretty clear. The Giants can spread it out a little bit on their side with different wide receivers like Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton. We saw Daniel Jones kind of spread the love around in week 1. As far as the target share for all of them, we saw Kenny Golladay go out there and see 6 targets. Sterling Shepard received his fair share in 9 targets. And, of course, Slayton also got his fair share in 7 targets. So, I mean, pretty evenly distributed. As far as knowing where the ball is going in this offense, I don't really think it's that predictable, to be honest. I think you should be kind of diversifying these wide receivers throughout your lineup if you're making multiple. If you're making one lineup, you're just going to have to take a stand on one of these guys and hope that they really soak up the usage. Saquon Barkley is currently listed as questionable. He's a limited participant in Tuesday's walkthrough practice. And it's really concerning as far as keeping an eye on his injury, but I think he's going to be good to go here. I mean, I don't think it's going to be an issue. And he's going to remain on a limited pitch count as he continues to work his way back. It's the only concern. So one thing that you could possibly be taking a look to is some Devontae Booker exposure here. If he's expected to get quite a few carries and maybe not quite as much ownership, it could be something that could maybe be an edge on the field. I don't know how many people are really going to look to him. He only had 4 attempts in week 1, and it's not like he really got that much usage. But maybe this is a scenario in this grind out game where he doesn't get as much as much ownership, and you can capitalize on that in this showdown slate. So he's a guy that I would be willing to play if we find out that Barkley's going to be limited. And as far as Brightwell, I don't really think you can really go there as far as his usage. I mean, he didn't even run. He had 1 target in week 1. He's $600, so I guess as a cheap play, a deep play, you could be going there, but I'm not really sure that's all too relevant to what we'll be looking to. Evan Ingram's also listed as questionable, so that's something to keep an eye on, because if he's out, I do think that's going to obviously increase the interest we're going to have in Kyle Rudolph. Keep an eye on that one. If he's in, Rudolph's exposure or interest that we're going to have in him probably will go down. So honestly, on the Giants end, it's a little bit unpredictable. I'd say fading the running game would be a good idea with Barkley being somewhat limited. If I'm going to play someone on the Giants side, it probably would be one of these other backs. When breaking down Barkley's usage in week 1, I mean, 10 attempts, he could definitely get you there, but on a showdown slate, I mean, all it takes is one big run, but on a showdown slate where a guy has a household name and is expected to get so much ownership, I tend to think I'll be under the field on him. I think that could go a long way for you in tournaments. If probably target the wide receivers, the pass catching options rather than him. Now, only 41 over under with, the Giants having an 18.75 implied total, the Washington football team having a 22.25 implied run total. You could make an argument that this could be one of those spots where we could finally play maybe a defense in the king spot, maybe both defenses and then some kickers. It's a slow-paced game. They're just kicking field goals back and forth. I do think that could be a viable build, throwing in these defenses, giving you a little bit of a sneak peek on what that would look like. Throw in both of the defenses, throw in both of the kickers, and then you could be on your way to a unique lineup that no one really has, and then maybe throw in both of the quarterbacks, because in general, the quarterbacks are going to be the highest scoring guys on the field no matter what. Boom, we got a lineup that's a game script. It's correlated. It makes sense as far as what's going to occur. The QBs are going to move the ball a little bit down the field. They're going to rack up the most points, but overall, no one's going to score on the kickers, and then the defense is really going to excel, and then it's a matter of just who you put in the captain spot. That could be an approach you're taking on this game. If you're not taking that approach, you think it's going to be a little bit back and forth. We already went over the Giants on the Washington side. It's pretty clear who they've been going to for the most part. It's going to be Antonio Gibson. It's going to be Terry McLaurin. And then as far as the tight end position, it's going to be Logan Thomas. There's no one else really in this offense that's going to draw a lot of targets. If anything, I would say the contrarian option would be the two wide receiver options that we saw get very limited work in week 1. 4 targets for McLaurin. This guy's an absolute beast last year. I mean, looking at his numbers, they really stand out. He's constantly on the field. He had a 98.1% snap share percentage. 12.9 yards per reception, 87.9 air yards per game, constantly getting targeted. So, I mean, it goes without, having to really say he's an absolute beast. He's definitely going to be at the top of the list. I'm sure he's going to get plenty of ownership and for good reason. And then, like I said, Logan Thomas, absolute beast of a tight end as well. I think he's a guy that a lot of people don't really give a lot of attention to. He had a touchdown in week 1 on 3 targets. I think he's going to continue to be targeted. He could be targeted even more. And once again, when you're breaking down his stats, although he doesn't play on a top caliber team in the Washington football team, and he didn't get a lot of attention. I mean, 17 red zone targets last year, plenty of air yards per game, plenty of snap share percentage. I think we're going to continue to see him get a lot more of that as we go forward. And then, as I mentioned, Antonio Gibson, guy gets it done on the ground, he gets it done through the air. He's going to be targeted. Plenty of great pass catching running back. Of course, that's going to be very viable on Draftkings specifically. I mean, he had 5 targets in week 1, 3 receptions, 20 rushing attempts, plenty of usage. And I think he's going to be the next guy you're looking to. As far as the sleepers on Washington, I mean, like I said, really the 2 wide receivers and Dyami Brown and Cam Sims could go a long way in maybe separating you from the field, because these guys really did nothing in week 1. I don't know what their ownership is going to look like on this Showdown slate. I tend to think it has to be somewhat relevant. I mean, Brown had 4 targets, and then we saw Cam Sims out there. He played 2 total snaps in week 1, so he was expected to split time with Dyami Brown, and so it was expected to be kind of a split. That just was not the case. Now, I think a lot of people look at week 1 and they just think that's a guaranteed of what's going to happen in week 2, and we could see a completely different change in the game plan. So my approach would be, honestly, to be overweight on Cam Sims if he's going to get no ownership. Hope that he plays more than 2 snaps, and then you could be off to the races in these tournaments if he's not getting any ownership. That's the approach that I would take on this Showdown slate. And then as far as the difference between Draftkings and Fanduel, I mean, we're not really looking at that much of a difference. Adam Humphries in the slot for Washington is another guy you could be looking to. I mean, he's expected to get much more usage, much more run out there as far as routes and all that stuff. And when you're looking at what he did in week 1, if we pull him up here, we can see both of his targets. He had 2 targets. He played 60% of the snaps, working as the number 3 wide receiver in the slot behind Terry McLaurin and Dyami Brown. That's to be expected. And he is a pretty good slot wide receiver option for targets at times. So I do think that he could be another guy you can look for. I didn't mean to skip over him. Of course, on FanDuel, it's a little bit different. It's not a PPR format, so I'm not getting as excited for those dump down plays, all that stuff. I think it's much more simpler on FanDuel. You got Daniel Jones at the top, Taylor Heineke, I believe you pronounce it, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, Sterling Shepard, Kenny Golladay, as I mentioned, that's spread out. You got Logan Thomas. Over here, it's going to be a lot harder for me to justify putting some of those guys in. Like if we go ahead and we just put in, let's say, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, Sterling Shepard, and Kenny Golladay. I mean, those are some of the top options we've been discussing throughout this whole breakdown, and we barely can afford Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying that I don't want to play him, but we could throw in Logan Thomas, and we have all of these guys that we've been talking to are going to get the core share of targets. Fairly simple. And then if we do want to do the slow approach over here, we can as well with the kickers, Grant Cano, Dustin Hopkins, stack it up on the kickers. Only difference is on FanDuel, there are no defenses. So, I mean, you can't really do the full slow pace onslaught strategy over here like you can on DraftKings. I mean, if you want to maybe play some backup running backs or something, like a J.D. McKissick, to mix up your lineup, I just don't think that's going to make any sense, really. You can't really play that same approach over on FanDuel. I don't think it's really possible. You're going to have to kind of go to some of these more popular options in a Daniel Jones, in a Taylor Heineke, in an Antonio Gibson, and a Terry McLaurin. They just make it too easy. And ideally, you're going to want to correlate. So if you're playing one QB, let's say we're playing Taylor Heineke, maybe we could do a full onslaught in Gibson, McLaurin, and Logan Thomas, and then run it back with one of the wide receivers on the Giants side. So we're throwing a Kenny Galladay. This game script, we're just having Taylor Heineke and the Washington football team get up huge. They're throwing it downfield to McLaurin. They're throwing it downfield to Logan Thomas. They're throwing it to Antonio Gibson. And then once they get up, they're running with Antonio Gibson a bunch. And the Giants are just trying to come back and they're feeding Kenny Galladay repetitively, or whoever the wide receivers that you decide to run back. So there's a few different ideas for you on this Thursday Night Football Showdown slate. Where my head's at, like I said, keep an eye on the injury news with Kyle Rudolph, Evan Ingram. That's going to be big time for the Giants side. Overall, it's pretty predictable where the ball's going. I think this is going to be a little bit of a slower pace, grounded out game. And like I said, the options are going to be somewhat obvious. So try to more so focus on your lineup build. Get that run back option. If you're stacking up one team, run it back with the other guy, like I just talked about on FanDuel. Same rule is going to apply on DraftKings. Think about it from a game script. Come up with something in your head that's going to happen during the game, and then throw in the players that correlate with that game script. And I think you'll be in a good spot to get yourself to the top of the leaderboard. So that is all from me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. And do not forget to check out my KJK DFS Premium Package, link below in the description. Check it out. Get it now. Big upgrades coming our way. Excited for week 2. Wish you all the best of luck on this Thursday night Showdown slate, and we will see you in the next one.